Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
A soft answer turns away wrath. But unfortunately, sometimes our words have caused such deep fights within families that we have people that are estranged from each other that should be feeling close to each other, especially during the holidays. But folks are not speaking to each other because somebody said something that hurt someone's feelings so badly they didn't want to be bothered. You know, I know this story of this young man. He had 11 brothers and some sisters. And the thing with his family, they were half brothers. They all had different mothers. And his father favored him. And so everybody else hated him. And they found an occasion to trap him once, sell him into slavery, where all kinds of things happened to him. He got accused of falsely of rape, got thrown into prison, interpreted some prisoners' dreams, got sent to Pharaoh. He told Pharaoh what his bad dream was about. And in the end of all this, he saved the nation. But he also won his brothers back. And his brothers were really sorry for what they had done. You know, for years, they thought that Joseph, the person I'm talking about, was dead. And somehow they came to these grips in their own minds that they had done wrong. They felt bad. They were sorry. And eventually, all of them were reconciled. Well, that doesn't always work. In some of our families, they don't want to be reconciled. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to hear from you. They are mad at you. You have done something unforgivable. And I was told recently that one man who was estranged from his own daughter wrote to her a letter every month. She was sending him back. She wasn't responding. After 2 years, she finally opened up and they made amends for whatever offense had come between them. But what do you think? Are there ways to end estrangement, especially between parents and adult children who are so mad at you, they're saying you're not even seeing these grandkids? Sisters, what are your opinions?
Well, let me start.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these things happen in a vacuum. I think that usually when people get to the point where they don't want to see their parents anymore, or maybe their siblings or other family members, it comes from after years of abuse and dismissals and all kind of toxic relationships that other people haven't addressed, they haven't acknowledged. And at some point, especially in today's climate, where we're talking more about self-help and self-care, that we're trying to say, you know what, I've tried to set this boundary. I've tried to, forgive, forget, whatever. I've told you that you've hurt me. You continue to laugh it off or dismiss it or minimize my pain. And I think it's time for me, for my own mental health, to say, you know what, enough. And at that point, the person who feels as if they are that it's time for those people to just get over it, they need to take a look at themselves. Because sometimes when people say, well, I'm not mad, I don't understand what's going on, I don't understand why she's mad at me or why he's mad at me. Yeah, you do know. The thing is that we can either be strong and wrong, or we can acknowledge when we've hurt someone, and that goes on whatever side it is. And at some point, one person, especially the one who feels the most wanting to get back together with that person, needs to be the one to reach out. Because I'm going to tell you, if you have hurt me so much that I don't want to have anything to do with you, I'm not going to look at the holidays and say, yeah, that person has hurt me for years and years, but maybe I'll reach out now. No, I'm the one who feels that I can't reach out for my own mental health. So the person who feels like, especially Barbara, for those people that you know who can't even, get to their children and their children's children, maybe they need to look at themselves and say, what is it that I did? And they need to be the one to write the letter and make amends and saying, I'm not sure where this started. I love you. I'm sorry. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it with a disinterested party, like family counseling? And that's how you heal the rift. But you have to acknowledge when you have done other people wrong.
Yeah, I think what tends to happen when there's this rift is because neither party will acknowledge a wrong. And I've seen these things happen over an entire lifetime, and they might be some things from childhood that were never addressed. And the adults now are still holding on to that grudge, and there's so much anger over time. And if neither party cares enough to mend the rift, then it just stays there. And sometimes somebody has to step in that is a disinterested party, or at least another family member who is neutral enough where they can bring the two together. I've seen family situations where the siblings start taking sides. Well, I'm on her side. Well, I'm on his side. And so you get this family feud going on where nobody's able to address the hurt, and people are just taking sides, and it just never ends. And people go to their graves. We know
Yes.
this happens with not having resolved something that was resolvable if they would just talk about it. And so if you come into that kind of situation, and you might be a family member, even a distant family member, but then you hear this person's side and you hear the other person's side, and you're expected to take sides, and you don't want to take sides. So I think when it comes to healing family rifts, there has to be a neutral party that realizes this is something that's tearing apart the family. Like you say, you have family gatherings, but then they're so uncomfortable because people aren't talking to each other, and you don't want to not invite this faction that's angry, or this person that's angry at that person. And sometimes it gets like that. Well, we can't invite her because her and her not talking, or we can't invite him because the two of them might fight. You don't want to have that. So I think when it gets to that point, someone who has wisdom, hopefully an elder who is respected by both sides, can work on getting the two parties together, and maybe even on neutral ground somehow, and have them talk it out, and really help them go through the process of both admitting wrong. Because when you have a thing where everybody's saying the other person is wrong, or it's 100% your fault, it's 100% your fault, it stays at a stalemate. So somebody has to break the stalemate.
I think too that those are wise words in terms of talking about someone who's in a position of being a neutral person who can bring both parties together. But sometimes, and I'm speaking from the experiences that I have had from other people are holding on to that anger, especially in some of the instances where I have seen where it is a a an adult child who has had a falling out with their mother. I don't know what it is. There seems to me to be a lot of falling out with mothers and their daughters, but they are so angry that they are going to punish this parent by not allowing them to see the grandkids. And I don't know exactly how would you remedy that if you are unwilling yourself to admit that you have been maybe a bullying, bossy parent. I mean, when I hear the words of some of the people that I talk to and they're telling me their side, now I haven't heard the adult child side. I've only heard the parent that is ranting about how awful their kid has been all their lives and all I've done for them, and this is how they repay me. And in my heart, I'm thinking, you might want to soften your words to them if you want there to be reconciliation. You can't talk to them like that. You have to be humble. There has to be a humbleness in wanting to build or rebuild or start a relationship with someone. You can't go up ranting and wailing about how awful they are and expect there to be some kind of relationship that's going to be healed.
Yeah. I've
Like I
seen that.
said, these things do not happen in vacuums. When you're hearing someone feeling that they are, being uh neglected, or they're or they can't see that where they might be in the wrong, you have to start to think, well, maybe there's a reason why you can't see your grandkids. Maybe if you're talking about all the things that you have done for your child, and yet now they won't do this, or they're so awful, you have to wonder, is this the way you talk to them when they were children? Is this the way you treated them when they were children, and you still expect for them to acquiesce when they no longer have to? If you don't see them as adults, if you don't understand that maybe you are part of the problem, that is not going to ever be resolved. We can all sit around and talk about whataboutism or all of this other stuff, or they said this or they said that. Maybe that parent is keeping you from your grandchildren because that child has been bullied all their lives, and they don't want to see the same behavior foisted upon their children. Maybe they feel they are protecting. And so at some point, you have to look at that person and say, this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you're hurt, and I'm hearing that you're frustrated. But I'm not hearing that you are willing to come to the table with this person and say, I'm sorry. And if you're not willing to do that, no, you are not going to see those grandkids. No, you're not going to see the baby cousin or the nephew or the niece or all the people that you want to see. Sometimes you have to look around and say, you know what? I might be the problem. And that's humbling and humiliating and embarrassing to say, but sometimes you're just wrong. Now, sometimes it's the other person, sometimes it's a combination. There's your side, my side, and somewhere in the middle may be the truth. But the thing is, if you are the one who are hurt, you are the one who feels aggrieved because you can't see something, someone's keeping something from you, look inside yourself and then say, okay, how can I change this? What have I done? You may need a professional to come in and sit with your family. They have to be willing, but you have to be willing too. You can't go around and say, okay, this is my side, and once they agree with me, they're going to see that I'm entitled to this. You know what? We're not entitled to a whole lot of stuff in this world. And so you have to start thinking, what can I do to change this dynamic?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that happens when people start feeling that their children are ungrateful. I did this for you, I did that for you. And I've had friends who have been in that situation where their children won't let them see the grandchildren. I have a friend who, she's old school, believes in corporal punishment, and the parents don't. And she feels like, look, if they come over here, they're gonna get their butts beat. And so, hey, the parents stopped letting her see them, and it was very
Yeah.
hurtful for her. But you have to realize, if this is their method, even if you get frustrated, 'cause maybe timeout doesn't seem like it's working because maybe they're not responding to it, and you want immediate obedience, but that's not their way. So you have to respect their way. And I know a lot of times grandparents will feel like, well, I know best for your children, even though you know you don't agree with my methods, but this is how I raised you all, and you all turned out right. Well, child might feel like, no, I didn't turn out right. Like you say, that's why I don't want my children over there, because I'm all messed up and I don't want that happening to them. So yeah, it is humbling for a parent to admit that they didn't do everything right. They may have been hurtful, they may have uh, made some mistakes. And when you can't apologize because you think, well, I'm grown, I don't apologize to my children. Well, you know what? You might need to do that, because if you were wrong, wisdom is being able to admit you're wrong. And a lot of times those rifts never get healed because the older person will not admit that they made mistakes. They will not acknowledge their hurt. And sometimes that younger person has been carrying the anger for a long time. And while they were younger, maybe in childhood, they couldn't do anything about it. But like you say, you're older now, you don't have to put up with it. And so you don't. And I think we see that a lot when people get grown and then they don't have to do anything because they're grown and they start to assert their real feelings. Sometimes it's hurtful, but if you really want to heal a rift, you have to be humble enough to say, I'm a human being. I made some errors. I did the best I knew how at the time. I didn't realize I hurt you. It can't be this defensive thing where, well, look, this is the way I was raised and I turned out fine, because maybe you didn't turn out fine. Maybe you messed up and don't know you're messed up. So all of us have to, and I think everybody gets that self-evaluation, because what's the saying? You reap what you sow. Your children are going to bring back to you what you did to them. And some of it wasn't good, but it's the best you knew how at the time. So there's nothing wrong with admitting that you might have been wrong, but you do have to admit you're wrong if someone says, yeah, you did this, but it was hurtful. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to heal the rift.
And
not only that, there has to be a realization that the relationship between an adult and their parent, it does change. And there has to be that mutual respect.
Yeah.
I kind of roll my eyes when I have friends who do have grandkids say stuff like, yeah, we get the kids, sugar them up and send them back, knowing that the parent is not into their kid having a bunch of sweets. And, and it isn't just people that I know. There was a guy in a restaurant who made the same comment. Oh, yeah, we get the grandkids, sugar them up and send them back, and then they'll be all wild. And not being willing to respect the health boundaries that their children have set for their kids. I'm thinking, what is up with that? Is that some little sly way that you are punishing your kid by going against the health mandates that they have set for their own children? Why can you not just obey that?
It's disrespect.
It's very disrespectful.
I'm gonna do things my way, and I'm the parent here. We've had people say that to adult children, right?
Oh yes. Oh, I'm the grown one here.
I'm the adult here. No, I'm sorry. We all adults. I'm 25. I don't care if you're 55. We all adults, and so it's disrespect, and that's why children feel like, okay, if you're not going to respect me, you don't need to see your grandchildren.
Now, I will tell you something in our own family that I greatly admired Daddy. Daddy was a smoker, and we grew up with the smoke haze in the air. Well, when Lavinia was a baby, she had asthma. She grew out of it like in about 18 months. But I would not bring her over, and it was because of the smoke. And I just told Daddy, I says, I would love to have her over here, but I'm not bringing her because the smoke is not good for her. And do you know that Daddy quit? Now, Daddy quit 5 times, but he definitely did not smoke, around our grandkids. And when he came over to visit us at our place, where nobody smoked, he was really respectful and did not smoke while he was there. And so I think there has to be a willingness to maybe do something you don't want to do to keep the relationship on a loving level.
Yeah, and that is important. You do have to make adjustments. I mean, because Daddy did the same thing, when Zakia was young. Matter of fact, they had this agreement. If she caught him smoking, he'd have to pay her $1. That was her college fund, y'all.
I was going to say, what is she, a millionaire now?
Yeah. Still got a stash, but he really did try to quit around the children because he didn't want to affect their health. And I think sometimes parents, if they're willing to make some changes in what they do because there are certain things you don't want to expose your children to, then that's showing respect. And it might be some lifestyle changes. If people are willing to accept their grown children's adulthood And the fact that they're going to be different than you are, they're going to make some decisions that maybe you don't like, but they're grown. You have to respect those wishes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's what it comes down to. And I think when you have these family conflicts, it's because there might have been a lifetime of feeling of disrespect, and that tends to it emerges in adulthood when you
And
don't have to
sometimes people forget really, something goes on, a feud goes on so long, that people forget what the main thing was.
forget what it
Um,
was.
I remember seeing something where somebody said, you know, how did she say this? She said, "I forget, but I don't forgive. So I walk around mad at people, but I don't remember why."
That's backwards.
So that's the thing is that, but things go on for so long. Either you have a laundry list or you just have this bad feeling that this person always made you feel bad and you don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we have to really start to look at ourselves as the flawed human beings we are when we talk about how someone won't let us do something else. If you are disrespecting your grandchildren, which means you are disrespecting the person that you raised,
Yes.
and you are saying, "Okay, I raised you, but I'm going to do something that's just going to be so harmful to your children."
Even
You
if
know,
I don't think it is, you think it is, and I'm going to ignore your feelings about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bottom line is respect. That's the way you heal a family rift. There's got to be respect.
Yes.
And a willingness to be humble,
Yeah.
even if it means admitting that you were wrong.
Yes.
Yes. That's the key. Well, it's time for us to go. And be sure you like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms. I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are three Black moms. Bye. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.